The candlelight flickered across my mother's face as she blew out 55 candles on her elaborate chocolate birthday cake, the flames dancing in the reflection of her diamond earrings. The private dining room at Meridian Restaurant buzzed with the gentle conversation of 30 family members and close friends, all gathered to celebrate Margaret Chen's birthday in the style she'd grown accustomed to over the years. I sat at the far end of the long mahogany table, picking at my barely touched salmon while watching the familiar performance unfold. My older sister Victoria commanded attention near Mom's right side, regaling everyone with stories of her latest promotion to senior partner at the city's most prestigious law firm. Her husband James, a successful orthopedic surgeon, nodded approvingly beside her while their twin daughters, perfect in their matching designer dresses, sat like little angels. Meanwhile, I occupied what had become my traditional spot at family gatherings, the cheap seats where conversations happened around me rather than with me. And then the judge ruled in our favor for the full settlement, Victoria was saying, her voice carrying easily through the room. 18 months of preparation, but we secured $200 million for our client. Not bad for a Tuesday morning. The table erupted in appreciative murmurs. Uncle Robert raised his wine glass. To Victoria, the legal eagle of the family. More toasts followed. More praise for Victoria's incredible success, her beautiful family, her perfect life that seemed lifted straight from a magazine cover. What about you, Sophia? Aunt Helen turned to me with the kind of polite interest usually reserved for distant acquaintances. What is it you do again? The question hit the table like a stone dropped in still water. 30 pairs of eyes focused on me, waiting for an answer I'd given 100 times before. Business consulting, I said quietly, taking a sip of water. I help companies with operational efficiency and strategic planning. Oh, Aunt Helen nodded with the glazed expression of someone who didn't understand what I'd just said. That sounds complicated. Victoria's laugh cut through the polite confusion like glass breaking. Business consulting is a very generous way to describe it, Helen. Sophia has been consulting for 3 years now, which mostly means she works from her apartment and sends out proposals that nobody accepts. The warmth drained from the room. I felt the familiar flush of embarrassment creeping up my neck as 30 successful people regarded me with a mixture of pity and disappointment. Now, Victoria, Mom interjected, but her tone suggested she agreed with the assessment. I'm sure Sophia is doing her best with whatever it is she does. My best. As if building artificial intelligence systems that could revolutionize how companies manage their supply chains was just doing my best. As if the company I'd founded in my spare bedroom wasn't currently valued at $2.8 billion. As if I wasn't the SC that TechCrunch had been trying to identify for months as the mysterious CEO behind Quantum Solutions. Actually, Cousin Michael chimed in with the enthusiasm of someone about to deliver gossip. Didn't you say you were starting some kind of tech company, Sophia? Whatever happened with that? The question felt like a trap. Around the table, family members leaned forward slightly, sensing entertainment. It's going well, I said simply. Going well. Victoria's eyebrows rose with theatrical skepticism. Michael, she's been saying it's going well for 2 years. Meanwhile, she's still living in that tiny one-bedroom apartment and driving a Honda that's older than her career prospects. The laughter that followed felt like acid in my veins. My cousin David nearly choked on his wine. Uncle Robert shook his head with mock sympathy. Even the younger cousins giggled at the family joke about Sophia's pathetic life choices. I could have told them that my tiny apartment was actually a penthouse I'd bought in cash 6 months ago, but I preferred the privacy of letting them think I was struggling. I could have mentioned that my old Honda was a deliberate choice. Why draw attention with expensive cars when you're building something quietly? I could have explained that Quantum Solutions had just closed its Series C funding round at a $2.8 billion valuation, making me one of the youngest female billionaires in tech. Instead, I just nodded and took another sip of water. The problem, Mom said, her voice taking on the tone she used when delivering life lessons, is that Sophia has never understood the importance of stability. Look at Victoria. She followed a traditional path, built a solid career, married well, started a family. That's what success looks like. Exactly, Victoria agreed, warming to one of her favorite topics. I tell Sophia all the time that she needs to stop chasing these fantasy businesses and find a real job. Something with benefits, security, a clear path for advancement. I tried to get her an interview at my firm, James added. They're always looking for administrative assistants. Good benefits, stable income, room for growth if she applies herself. Administrative assistant. I had a master's degree in computer science from Stanford and a PhD in artificial intelligence, but my brother-in-law thought I was qualified to answer phones at his medical practice. That's very generous, James, Mom said approvingly. Sophia, you should seriously consider that opportunity. You're 28 years old. It's time to start thinking practically about your future. 28 years old and apparently incapable of managing my own career decisions. I felt something shift inside me, a familiar anger that I'd been pushing down for years. I appreciate the offer, I said carefully, but I'm committed to my current projects. Your current projects? Mom's voice rose slightly. Sophia, what projects? What do you actually do all day? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you spend your time sending emails and having meetings about nothing while the rest of us are building real careers. The room went quiet. This was the moment I'd been dreading all evening, the public dismantling of my life choices at Mom's birthday dinner. I work with technology companies, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I help them optimize their operations and develop strategic growth plans. Technology companies, Victoria repeated with a smirk. Like what? Give us some examples, Sophia. Name one client you've actually helped. The trap was closing. Around the table, 30 family members waited for me to prove I wasn't the failure they all thought I was. I could have named dozens of clients. Fortune 500 companies that paid Quantum Solutions millions for AI-driven efficiency solutions. Startups that had grown into unicorns using our proprietary algorithms. Government agencies that relied on our security protocols for classified operations. But revealing any of that would have meant revealing who I really was, and I wasn't ready for that conversation. I can't discuss specific clients due to confidentiality agreements, I said. The collective eye roll was almost audible. Confidentiality agreements, Uncle Robert chuckled. That's convenient. Very convenient, Mom agreed, her disappointment now fully on display. Sophia, I love you, but this fantasy has gone on long enough. You're almost 30 years old with nothing to show for it. No stable job, no husband, no children, no real accomplishments that anyone can see. The words hit like physical blows. 30 witnesses watching my mother systematically destroy my life at her own birthday party. Maybe it's time to face reality, she continued, building momentum. You're not Victoria. You're never going to be Victoria. You don't have her drive, her intelligence, her natural ability to succeed. And that's okay, not everyone can be exceptional. But you need to stop pretending you're something you're not. The silence that followed was deafening. 30 successful people sitting around a table laden with gourmet food, watching a mother tell her daughter she wasn't good enough to succeed. You'll never be successful like your sister, Mom concluded, her voice carrying the finality of a medical diagnosis. Look at you, still struggling at 28, still chasing dreams that will never come true. It's time to grow up, Sophia. It's time to accept who you are. The room held its breath. Victoria looked satisfied. James nodded approvingly. The cousins stared at their plates, uncomfortable with the brutality but unwilling to intervene. That's when my phone rang. The distinctive tone of my business line cut through the crystal-clear silence like a knife. Every head turned toward me as I glanced at the caller ID. Alexandra Stone, executive assistant. My heart started racing. Alexandra only called during family events if something absolutely critical had happened. The last time she'd interrupted my personal time was when Amazon wanted to acquire one of our subsidiaries for $300 million. I should take this, I said quietly, reaching for my phone. Sophia, Mom's voice carried clear irritation, it's my birthday dinner. Whatever business call you think you need to take can wait. It'll just be a moment, I said, already answering the call. Hello, Alexandra? Ms. Chen, Alexandra's professional voice came through clearly. I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but I have urgent news about the Morrison Industries acquisition. My blood turned to ice. Morrison Industries was a $50 million manufacturing company we'd been negotiating to acquire for 6 months. The deal would give Quantum Solutions complete vertical integration for our hardware production and eliminate our dependence on external suppliers. What kind of news? I asked, aware that 30 people were listening to every word. The acquisition is complete, Alexandra said, her voice containing barely controlled excitement. All regulatory approvals came through this afternoon. The wire transfer cleared 20 minutes ago. Quantum Solutions now owns Morrison Industries for the full $50 million purchase price. The phone slipped from my fingers for just a moment before I caught it. $50 million. I just acquired a manufacturing company for $50 million while my family thought I couldn't afford a real apartment. Ms. Chen? Are you there? Yes, I managed, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Yes, I'm here. The press release is scheduled for tomorrow morning, but I wanted you to know immediately. This makes Quantum Solutions the third largest AI-driven manufacturing company in North America. The integration team is standing by for your instructions. I looked around the table at 30 faces frozen in various states of confusion. Mom's wine glass was suspended halfway to her lips. Victoria's mouth had fallen open. James was squinting like he was trying to solve a complex equation. Alexandra, I said, and something in my voice must have changed because the room went completely silent. Put me on speakerphone. Certainly, Ms. Chen. You're now on speaker. I set my phone on the table in front of me, the small device suddenly the center of attention for every person in the room. Alexandra, for the benefit of everyone here, could you please confirm what you just told me? Of course. At 7:43 p.m. Pacific Time, Quantum Solutions completed its acquisition of Morrison Industries for $50 million. This represents the largest acquisition in company history and establishes Quantum Solutions as a major player in the AI-driven manufacturing sector. The sound that came from Mom wasn't quite a gasp and wasn't quite a choke. Her wine glass tumbled from her fingers, shattering against her dinner plate and sending burgundy splashing across the white tablecloth. Furthermore, Alexandra continued, oblivious to the chaos she was causing, the acquisition brings our total portfolio value to approximately $2.8 billion, making Quantum Solutions one of the fastest-growing private companies in the technology sector. Victoria's fork clattered to her plate. Uncle Robert's eyes went wide. Around the table, successful adults tried to process what they were hearing. Ms. Chen, Alexandra's voice continued through the speaker. Forbes is requesting an interview about the acquisition for their upcoming issue on female entrepreneurs. Should I schedule that for next week? Yes, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Schedule the Forbes interview. Excellent. Also, the team at Goldman Sachs wants to discuss taking Quantum Solutions public. They're projecting an IPO valuation of between $8 and $12 billion based on current growth metrics. The silence in the room was so complete I could hear the air conditioning humming in the walls. Thank you, Alexandra. Email me the Morrison integration timeline and have the legal team prepare the standard acquisition documentation. I'll review everything tonight. Certainly. Congratulations on another successful acquisition, Ms. Chen. Quantum Solutions is lucky to have your leadership. I ended the call and looked around the table at 30 people who suddenly seemed to see me for the first time. Mom was still staring at the wine stains spreading across the tablecloth, her face pale. Victoria looked like someone had told her that gravity had stopped working. James was doing mathematical calculations on his napkin, trying to figure out if he'd heard correctly. $50 million? Cousin David's voice came out as a whisper. I nodded. You just bought a company for $50 million? Aunt Helen's voice was barely audible. One of several acquisitions this year, I said simply. But, Victoria struggled to find words. You said you were doing consulting. You said you were helping companies with efficiency. I do help companies with efficiency, I replied. I buy them and make them more efficient using artificial intelligence. Quantum Solutions has acquired 17 companies in the past 3 years. Quantum Solutions, Uncle Robert repeated slowly. The Quantum Solutions? The AI company that's been in the news. The same one. But that company is worth approximately $2.8 billion, as Alexandra mentioned. The number hung in the air like smoke after an explosion. You own a company worth $2.8 billion? Mom's voice was so quiet I could barely hear her. I founded it, built it, and own controlling interest, yes. But you live in that tiny apartment, Victoria said weakly. I live in a penthouse that I bought in cash 6 months ago. You assumed it was tiny because I value privacy over showing off. And your car is reliable, efficient, and doesn't draw unwanted attention. When you're building something quietly, flashy cars are counterproductive. The logical explanations seem to make everything more surreal rather than less. Sophia, Mom said slowly like she was talking to someone she'd just met, are you telling us you're a billionaire? I'm telling you I'm the CEO of a $2.8 billion company that I built from nothing over the past 5 years. Whether that makes me a billionaire depends on how you calculate net worth, but Forbes seems to think so. Mom looked around the table like she was searching for something to anchor herself to reality. But why didn't you tell us? Why let us think you were struggling? The question I'd been dreading finally came. When was I supposed to tell you? I asked. During Victoria's lectures about finding a real job? During your speeches about accepting that I'd never be successful? During James's generous offers to help me become an administrative assistant? The truth settled over the room like a heavy blanket. For 3 years, I continued, every family gathering has been an opportunity for all of you to explain to me why my life choices were wrong. Why I needed to be more like Victoria. Why I needed to stop chasing fantasies and accept reality. I picked up my water glass, surprised to find my hand was steady. The reality is that while you were all giving me career advice, I was building one of the fastest-growing technology companies in North America. While you were suggesting I find stable employment, I was creating jobs for over 2,000 people. While you were worried about my future, I was acquiring companies worth tens of millions of dollars. Victoria tried to find her voice. But Sophia, we didn't know. If you had told us. Told you what? I interrupted. Told you that your assumptions about my life were completely wrong? Told you that the daughter you considered a failure was actually more successful than anyone else at this table? What exactly would that conversation have looked like? The question hung unanswered. Let me paint you a picture, I continued, feeling 5 years of suppressed frustration finally finding voice. 2 months ago at Cousin Sarah's wedding, you spent 20 minutes explaining to Uncle Robert's wife why I was the family disappointment. You used words like underachiever, and lack of direction, and refuses to face reality. Mom's face flushed red. That same week, I closed a $200 million contract with the Department of Defense for AI-driven logistics optimization. While you were apologizing for my existence, I was helping our military become more efficient. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Last Christmas, Victoria gave me a self-help book called Finding Your Path, Career Advice for Late Bloomers. She inscribed it with a note about how it's never too late to start over. Victoria looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. That same month, Quantum Solutions was featured on the cover of Wired magazine as the AI company that's changing everything. The article described me as the mysterious genius behind the revolution in artificial intelligence applications. I stood up slowly, my simple black dress suddenly feeling like armor. So to answer your question, Mom, about why I didn't tell you because you never asked. You never wanted to know what I was actually doing. You wanted to know why I wasn't doing what you thought I should be doing. The silence stretched between us, heavy with 5 years of misunderstandings and missed connections. You decided I was a failure, I continued, and every conversation we had was built around that assumption. You were so busy being disappointed in who you thought I was that you never bothered to discover who I actually became. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Sophia, we didn't mean. You did mean it, I said gently. Tonight, in front of 30 people, you told me I would never be successful like Victoria. You said I didn't have her drive or intelligence. You said I needed to accept who I was. I picked up my purse and walked around the table to where Mom sat, her birthday cake forgotten in front of her. Happy birthday, Mom, I said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. I hope 55 brings you everything you're looking for. As I walked toward the door, I could hear voices rising behind me. Victoria demanding explanations, James trying to calculate numbers, Mom calling my name with a voice full of panic and confusion. But I didn't turn around. I walked through the restaurant, past the expensive artwork and soft piano music, past the valet stand where my reliable Honda sat among the luxury cars. I got in and drove home to my penthouse, where I would spend the rest of the evening reviewing acquisition documents and preparing for tomorrow's board meeting. Because that's what Sophia Chen, the family disappointment, did with her evenings. My phone started ringing before I reached the parking garage. First Mom, then Victoria, then James, then various cousins and aunts and uncles who suddenly wanted to have very different conversations with me. I turned off my phone and rode the elevator to the 52nd floor, where my penthouse overlooked the city lights. Through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see the office buildings that housed 3 of the companies I'd acquired, the manufacturing district where Morrison Industries would now contribute to Quantum Solutions' vertical integration, the university where I'd started developing the algorithms that would eventually become worth billions. My tablet chimed with a notification from Alexandra. Press release approved. Forbes interview scheduled for Thursday at 2 p.m. Goldman Sachs meeting confirmed for Friday. Also, your mother called the office 17 times in the past hour. Should I add her to your priority contact list? I smiled and typed back, not yet. Let's see if she figures out how to apologize first. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new acquisitions, new opportunities to build something extraordinary. The Morrison Industries integration would require careful planning. The Goldman Sachs IPO discussion could change everything. The Forbes interview would finally put a face to the mysterious CEO who'd been revolutionizing artificial intelligence applications. But tonight, for the first time in 5 years, I was free to be exactly who I was. Sophia Chen, successful entrepreneur, technology innovator, and former disappointment to a family that had never bothered to see her clearly. And I was completely, utterly at peace with that. The city sparkled below me, full of possibilities and dreams and people building the future one decision at a time. Somewhere out there, a 28-year-old was probably sitting in her apartment, working on an idea that everyone told her would never succeed. I hope she would prove them wrong too.